And welcome to another episode of the Tiger Method Report podcast here at TigersMLReport.com. I am Rahul Lucas. Alongside me is Brandon Day, and Chris Brown should be along with us shortly. And you probably checked out Chris on the Days of War podcast. He just did one with Evan talking about Scott Harris, is AJ Inch get a free pass, a couple things. And so there's a lot of things this week. And the reason why we're a little on earlier is because the Lions game is at 8:15. I'm well aware of this town and when the Lions are on, and I don't want to compete against the Lions. There's no way to compete against that. So,
yeah,
but
we'd like to watch the Lions too. So
yeah, exactly. That's pretty much the primary reason why. So
I need a palate cleanser anyway.
yes. The Tigers have been just a train wreck. There's no other way to put it. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about the state of the minor leagues a little bit. Just so there's a lot of things going on with that because I do want Erie. Chris and I are going to be heading out to Erie tomorrow to cover the Game 2 championship. Game 2 is Gary Burhan, who pitched earlier against Binghamton this year at home, 5 innings, 2 hits, 4 strikeouts. Looks to try to do the same thing against the team that they went out and punched him in the mouth Sunday, 14-5. So that was a kind of a pleasant surprise. But we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about the end of the season, Toledo, West Michigan, and Lakeland, new champions as well. But just well, first let's just talk about the Tigers, and I think that there's a lot of things going wrong with this, and I know fans. I mean, I saw some people saying the hair should be hung, which was like utterly ridiculous. It's just baseball, folks. Like, calm down. It's baseball.
Yeah.
But I think out of the weekend losses that hurt the most was the ones with Nacho Alvarez. Nacho effing Alvarez. Like, he might be a good player to Atlanta. I don't know much about Nacho Alvarez, but the 1 strike away on Saturday, and then the Braves came back and won. That, I think, hurt more than whatever yesterday was. Yesterday was just another disaster, too. But you look at, like, P.J. Pullen getting a save for the Nationals, and, you see all this going on, and there's Chris. Chris, there you go. Hey.
Sorry, we had a mouse event at our house that I had to track down and catch it with my bare hands.
Did you get it? Did you get it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I thought you'd make a fine cat.
He was delicious. We put him out in the trash.
Oh, all right. So yeah, it was a combination of everything. And Atlanta is finally healthy. I think if this was the Atlanta team that was healthy all season long, we have a different story in the NL East. But we're kind of enjoying the Mets kind of collapsing because the Mets are historically collapsing too, and that I think is taken away from the mainstream media because everybody loves New York, and that's a fact. The Mets are more of a headline team, and they spend a lot more than the Tigers have. But is anything that can go wrong happens to go wrong with the Tigers. It's just there's just a lot of I showed Chris I meant to send it to you, Brandon, the Harris, should be hung kind of thing.
And can we just keep it traditional? I mean, we're out of control in this country. We need to go back to just throwing rotten tomatoes and tarring and feathering,
Yeah, or the shame. There's just a shame bell every time Scott Harris walks in town.
Yeah, the public stocks or something. Yeah. Let's not go too far.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here, but there's one thing that's certain. It is like everything it is Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong happens to go wrong, and the starting pitching did what it has been able to do to a certain extent. But then the bullpen is back to being the liability that's been. And so the Cleveland series, though, some of the stats I've seen in Cleveland during this last 2 weeks has been voodoo. It is Joe Boo.
Yeah.
Literally, Cuban voodoo is a thing. My dad, rest in peace. My dad had, so there's a thing. There's like a voodoo thing in my garage. I've shown pictures to Chris. I think I've shown this to you, Brandon, before.
Yeah, I've seen it before, yeah.
Yeah, there's a voodoo thing that I have not messed with in my garage since my dad passed away because I don't know what to do with it. There's a showman guy in the press box that works for MLB. He's got a bunch of stuff. And he said, I'll take care of it for you if you want to get rid of it. I don't touch it. I don't screw with it. Yeah. Sometimes I looked it up what it does, and we've given it candy, we've given it money, and I hate to say it, but sometimes my wife's got a new job, I got a new job. I don't know, but I don't know what Cleveland's doing. But the fact is that you have a team that just is the giant is just will not lose. They lost finally yesterday. Thank you, Minnesota, for doing the Tigers a favor.
Yep.
But the last time we spoke, the Tigers had a 7-game lead. They now have a 1-game lead heading into the belly of the beast Tuesday. As Chris and I will be driving through Cleveland tomorrow, so that will be interesting to see that. But anyway, Brandon, I'll start with you. Your leaders right now, bless you boys, I'm sure are just the same, if not. I like to think they're a little more logical than some of these, like some other people. But
Yeah, everyone's losing their mind. I mean, I'm losing my mind. I was there yesterday. It was miserable. It was, it's just sad to watch a fan base like trying to, obey the signs and like get pumped up and make some noise and all that. And people are trying to make noise, but people don't really believe in making noise. Everyone is just beat down, and it was just kind of a classic case again yesterday. Like it's been whack a mole. Like it could be like a starter blows up each series. The bullpen blows a game each series, but the one constant has been they are not getting runners in. Like it's they've had plenty of base runners even against Cleveland. They had the base runners. They just could not get the hits with runners on base. Their approach has been bad. Same deal yesterday. They did hit some balls hard. Everything right at it's all there. Like the bad luck is there. The bad play from pretty much all facets of the game is there. Riley Green still terrible. Gleyber Torres picked it up and had a couple nice games that should have helped them out, but it didn't. So I mean, it's just all going wrong. And yeah, I mean, everybody's trying to move on to the post mortem, which I don't think is actually going to be that complicated, to be honest. I mean, we all know what went wrong this year. They weren't very aggressive in the off season. It kind of worked anyway. It looked like it would be fine, and they haven't been able to get the bullpen together. We were going to talk about the Toledo game yesterday, where it was like watching the ghost of Tigers bullpen pass from this entire season, where they're all still in the system. It's just that everybody's, nobody worked out. Everybody's down there. And the group that seemed to find, a reliever or two every year from 22 to when Scott Harris took over heading into 23 and last year, haven't found squat this year, haven't been able to get a starter developed. And they haven't really given anyone enough leash to really kind of find out if they're going to be any good or not, I don't have like a ton of faith in Drew Summers, but he's not, like a terrible option considering the lefties that they let go. But he gets a couple outings, it goes bad, he's gone. Next guy's a couple outings are bad, he's gone. They're absolutely flailing. And there's you've got to try things. You don't want to just stick with things when they're going wrong, but you also like there's just no way to develop players like that where it's just like trying to luck into the hot hand. So I mean, in all facets, it's been bad. I don't know how you apportion blame between Hinch and Harris for not being able to get some kind of a pitching staff together beyond the top couple guys. You can pick your poison there if you want to, but they just don't have the horses. Like, there's no reason that Charlie Morton should have been that bad, but Charlie Morton is 41. You never know when he's just going to run out of gas in a season. Chris Paddock, again, like numbers of a fourth and fifth starter, but couldn't get it done for him. Had some personal trouble, obviously, too. Like, it's just all come up bad. The Tigers were obviously lucky in the first half. We all knew that. I think we all said this repeatedly, that they were going to come back down to earth to some degree, and it was just a matter of like how far they fell. But it's completely reversed. I mean, it's been, from everything going right has flipped to everything going wrong. And that doesn't usually happen all in the same season. I could have expected a complete disaster and a whole bunch of pitching injuries next year. But instead, it's just all, come home to roost. And, there was a part of me that when I saw that the Guardians were losing yesterday, I was kind of fine with the Tigers losing because this is kind of what they deserve. They deserve to have to go into Cleveland, face the Demon, and beat them at home. And if they can't do that, then, they're going to get what they deserve, unfortunately. And the fans aren't going to get what they deserve because, the place was still packed yesterday. We're all still getting grifted left and right. Every time I go in there, there's more ads. There's, the prices are higher. You're just getting screwed. And you're getting screwed, but you're there because you believe in the team. You want to root the team on, and it should be fun. And right now it just isn't. And so it all piles up on you. It just feels worse and worse. You feel like a sucker in there. Just talking to fans in there, everybody just feels miserable. Most of the people at that game bought tickets a couple weeks ago thinking, oh, maybe we'll see them clinch or, we'll get to, send them off to the playoffs with a rousing ovation. And instead, you're just watching them flail with runners on base. You're watching the bullpen come in and blow it again. And, it's depressing. I encourage people to step back and think about the bigger picture because this isn't the end for the Tigers. This year wasn't the end for the Orioles. Like, these are young teams that do still have strong farm systems and players coming, but they're going to have to do a lot better. They're going to have to make a lot smarter moves, and they're also going to have to stop trying to be the smartest guy in the room because it has not worked. The litany of Scott Harris moves that were small that he kind of beat the market on got a lot smaller this year. He did it again with Kyle Finnegan, but he missed out on a whole bunch of them. And, we've always said like, oh, there's no bad 1-year deal. But when that's all you're kind of willing to make, you're putting yourself under a lot of pressure to be the smartest guy in the room. And they're just not. I think Scott Harris is probably fine. And maybe maybe he'll be motivated, but to make some bigger moves and try some things. But, they're going to have to be, because, this just isn't cutting it. They should have been in better position. They should have done a better job at the deadline, and they pretty much botched it, except for Finnegan. And here we are, and no one can do anything about it now except the players. So, best of luck, boys. I hope you can pull it together. But Torkelson has been kind of a nice surprise. Like, he's been one of the few guys really digging in and producing for them under this stretch, and not crumbling. But some of the other guys kind of crumbling, it looks like. Mentally, physically, the whole thing. So yeah, here we are.
Well, and so to me, like you expect teams to have ups and downs during the season, right?
Yeah.
You don't expect them to go 1-9, while another team that's right behind them goes 9-1. That just doesn't ever happen. Like, seriously, like, you can probably go through the history of baseball. It's probably happened like 4 times. It's just a crazy confluence of events, and to be that bad, everything has to go wrong, or it goes wrong at the worst possible time. I think of football games. I go back to I don't know. I'm sure we have football fans of all different stripes here, but I'm thinking of the Michigan football game against TCU in the semifinals a couple years ago. They fumble the ball at the 1-yard line. Instead of scoring, they lose the ball. They throw 2 pick sixes. Like, you can have mistakes, but sometimes the mistakes are maximally important. Like, they instead of, like, Will Vest has a bad outing. It happens. It happens to happen twice right after the Tigers have these miraculous, like, late inning home runs to possibly tie or win a game, and then it just falls apart, and it's just a gut punch.
Yep. And in that circumstance, you've also used your best relievers to get there, and so now that's all wasted, and now you don't have them for some other game. Yeah.
Well, and then to your point, like, Torkelson he's been very good in September, and then yesterday he goes 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. He comes up to the base with 7 men on base, leaves 7 men on base. Just like, you can't expect one person to do it all the time, but like, one hit in those situations, and the game's completely different, and it just didn't happen. And it just feels like there's something that's, like, permeated the clubhouse, and they can't shake it. There's this, like, skunk stink, and they can't get it off. And I'll say what bothers me a little bit is, and this is almost like, it's like one of those, like, effects that's got a name, like the Dunning-Kruger effect or whatever. Like, this is a very complicated, like, a lot of things had to go wrong. And the more complicated and complex the process is to make these things go bad, the simpler the answers become to the fans. Oh, just call it McGonigal. That'll fix everything. Like, I should have traded for Verlander. Like, these things that, like, people wanted, and I get, but, like, they don't. When everything goes wrong, you need a lot of things different, and you can't just fix it with a prospect from AA or your famous ace from years ago. And the odd thing is, and I guess this is the last thing I'll say about this is last year, because they sold. They didn't have any pressure to go out and improve the team, so they were able to give guys some chances. And guys came through like crazy. Hannafy and Gunther, like, wow, they just became really good relievers down the stretch. This year, well, they felt the pressure to add some guys, so they went and got them. They were all bad, except for Finnegan. And the guys they kind of cut loose have all been good since then.
Yep.
It's brutal. PJ Poulin, Matt Gage, Dietrich Enns, like if they had been here and pitching like they are right now, that everything would be different. But they went and they tried, and they did it wrong. And all you can hope is that they learn from it in some way and be better next year. I don't know.
I mean,
that does speak to one key point, which is that things are just a lot different this year. Like, you have to behave differently when you're a contender and you're trying to get there and you're expecting to at least be in the mix. And yeah, they just kind of botched that point. They kind of moved away from their core, aesthetic here of, like, trying the young guys. It's not like they gave Kiter a rotation spot and just said, hey, let him run with it. He's been up and down all year. We're going to just, like, stick with this guy or stick with that guy. And they couldn't decide who to stick with and give a try to, like, a real try. And so, yeah, it just ended up, just being kind of a comedy of, optioning, calling guys up, claiming guys, getting rid of the wrong guy, I mean, obviously, like we can name all those 3 lefties, and they're not going to have 5 lefties in their bullpen. But if they had one more good lefty in their bullpen right now, then you can try like opener strategies. You can mix and match differently than you would. Instead, they've kind of just like been rote about this and just kind of rolling guys out there to get pummeled. So yeah,
It's
it's just a confluence of suck.
it's the thing that really kind of to me that just kind of pisses me off a little bit is the fact that it is everybody wants you mentioned Justin Verlander, Chris. How is Verlander? We won't know if Verlander was going to come here and do. How would we know what the Giants wanted for him? There's no earthly idea. And again, the bridge between him and Detroit could be destroyed. We don't know. So Verlander's not the easy trip. But the other part of this pisses me off is everybody out there, the sports talk radio people are going, well, this is all Harris. This is Harris. Moo, ha, ha, ha. This is all. He could have done more of the trade deadline. He could have gotten Dave Bernard, blah, blah, blah. First and foremost, you look at Finnegan, he's done just fine. If Boston was going to trade Chapman, which they weren't because they're in playoff contention, then yes, that would have been a great addition. But it is this Captain Hindsight bullshit that is pissing me off. It's just like this. Well, this woulda, coulda, shoulda. No, look, the Tigers have not been able to do. They've been playing like we mentioned this. They play above their water. It's the starting pitcher hasn't been terrible, but to keep them up in games rather than steal them, Mize gives up one run over 3 innings, but then the offense just can't do dick. So it's either one thing or another. It's the inconsistency that's the part that I don't. That drives me nuts because.
Well, and I don't want to go into the hindsight thing either. Like, well, they should have got this guy because obviously, this worked out. This worked out. All that matters is that what they did not work. Guys they got failed. I don't care who they had gotten as long as they had worked. But
but you also you gave Matt Gage 5 2/3 scoreless innings. That's it. You gave him 5 damn innings to work with. Yeah. So that doesn't make any sense to me. That's the part that, and no one's going to question that because, Lord forbid, nothing negative can be said without them losing their mind. But the thing is that Cleveland also has had very, very good starting pitching. I mean, what was that stat, Chris? Like 28 runs in 15 games or something like that?
Yeah, they're dominating.
It's like generational pitching, a run. They gave up, 6 runs yesterday, which is like a third of what they've given up over the last 18 games. Right? It was 28 runs over 18 games, which has been done 5 times in the last 50 years. 5. Yeah. And one of the other times was Cleveland.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and the second closest team was 50 or 60 runs or something like that. Yeah. Something ridiculous. So
the Tigers did. The numbers weren't the same, but the Tigers did an incredible thing the last 2 months of last season. Incredible things sometimes do happen. But I also, as another kind of aside to the Harris thing, sometimes your stuff just doesn't work anymore. It felt like the Tigers had some edges in terms of the way they pitch guys the last 2 years and the way they use their bullpen. And this year they lost that edge. And I don't know, if that's a permanent problem or if teams caught up or, if it's just certain guys didn't work out and then they kind of got panicky, rolled through all these different guys without really being able to decide on who they wanted to really give a long look to and try to develop. And so here we are. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it's obviously it's Scott Harris's job to get the right guys to solve these problems. You're in first place. You have a huge lead. You should be kind of prepping for the postseason. And, he got Finnegan. I mean, that was probably like the best, the best cost for value trade at the deadline. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like they didn't get the right guys and then they haven't made the right decisions in terms of who to keep and who to send down. And so here we are. But nothing is going to save you if Riley Green is terrible and if Gleyber Torres isn't hitting and, Colt Keith kind of fell off the map. It's not a big surprise that Zach McKinstry didn't turn out to be like, a 30-year-old breakout candidate and is just like, kind of back to being a quality utility guy. Javi has fallen off the earth and we'll have to talk about that this offseason because I just don't know how you do this again. They kind of put all their chips in and it worked, with the hip surgery kind of got him healthy and he did all right for a while, but he looks atrocious at this point. So yeah, I mean, it all just kind of comes down to the same thing. The decisions they made did not work. So
yeah, and I think one of the things is for a lot of people it isn't necessarily hindsight, right? Like a lot of people were very critical of Harris at the deadline, right? They wanted Suarez, they wanted other people. Right. So but they were kind of muddling along just fine up until these last 2 weeks. Like it was still not playing great baseball, but it was average-ish, and then they
Right.
just fell off a cliff. And that's one of those weird things that happens. And I was talking to you about this, Raj, just kind of randomly. At this time last year or after the season, it's like, hey, they're building something really interesting here. What they need to do is they need to get more pitching depth.
Yep.
And they did, but none of it was good. Like like Chris Paddock and Charlie Morton. I thought Morton was going to be good. He was terrible, much worse than I could have imagined. And to your point, like earlier, like they took this shotgun approach with every reliever possible, and nobody really ever got a chance to get any kind of stability.
Yeah.
And sometimes guys came up and they didn't perform great, and it was like, okay, you go down and work on something. And like Dylan Smith got hurt and was out for a couple months, and like who knows what he could have done. Chase Lee was a key member of the bullpen earlier in the year, and he came up basically. We had like one more appearance from him, or not even that.
Yeah.
And he's just back at AAA. They I don't know. They just didn't give guys a whole lot of rope, except for the veterans who they couldn't cut, and they just like everything has gone wrong, and you just hope. I mean, first of all, it's not over, right? Like
Right.
They everything is right in front of them. You've got two teams, the two teams that are like trying to get into the playoffs. They're right in front of you. You win those series, and you're all good. You're in the playoffs and doing things. But they have to learn a lot of lessons from this, and I'm not entirely sure what the lessons are, but maybe don't do this again.
Well, I mean, we talked about this a lot last year, like having the depth in your farm system and in the upper levels, that you had guys that you could try and that you could option. As soon as you get to that point where you are like piling up free agents, all the optionality kind of goes out of your roster because you're having to decide to like cut this guy that you spent money on. And that's something every good team ends up facing when you get to the point of being good. It's like they just didn't sort of recognize it fast enough. If they had traded for a starting pitching prospect in the offseason somehow, which isn't easy to do, or this spring, or found someone that had options that they could work with, that
No.
might have helped. They had all these injury stashes, which is usually a good idea, but nobody came back fast enough to really, be able to integrate them the way they needed to. There's a whole lot of transition from being like a building team to like, okay, now we're serious and we actually have, free agents that we can't just option, and that transition right there is where kind of most of what went wrong, I would say.
Yeah, and also I would say the lack of outfield depth has really killed them too a little bit because I think if he had another bat to go in there outside, I don't think they expected Burling's injuries to be so. He's had two different injuries now, the right shoulder and then the quad, and so the Cole Keith injury. Cole Keith was batting over 292 in his last 10 games before a rib cage pull, and then he had a brace on when we saw him on Saturday there. So, to me, it's a combination of just a little bit of everything. And in terms of it, Robert saying this is the second time they're having a bad 2 weeks since the start of July.
Yeah, it was right around the All-Star break when they went on that ridiculous but then they came back from that and they were playing decent baseball again.
They won 4 in a row at the end of the month, and then after losing, I think it was like 5 in a row. Or no, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 7 in a row.
I just this team had flaws. We all knew that. We talked about it all season. Yeah. I didn't think that they were a 100 baseball team. Yeah. Right? They're not a team that's going to lose 9 out of 10 games. That takes a bunch of freak things going wrong. It sucks. And people, like I said, everybody, you can blame everybody. You can blame Hinch. You can blame Illich. You can blame Harris. You can blame the players. You can blame everybody. Everybody plays a part in it when it goes wrong like this. And honestly, like I have a very, very fatalistic, life is short. It's a cold universe, eat at Arby's type of view about everything. And like sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. And the other argument I made, and Raju brought him up, is the Mets. The Mets did everything that Tigers fans want the Tigers to do. Everything. Yeah. Signed big free agents, made big trades at the deadline, brought up all their prospects.
Yep.
Sitting out of the playoffs right now. Like sometimes it just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, and I mean the Tigers could have signed Alex Bregman, could have not signed Alex Cobb, and signed someone who they stashed and worked out. Could have done all those things, and it sometimes still doesn't work out for you. I mean, the difference, of course, is that we're in the AL Central, where you should be able to take this division. But but in general, I would agree with the general principle. And then we had Raj, you sent that that DM that someone sent you. A fan wanted us to just talk about the whole controlling the zone mantra, which they still talk about, but for whatever reason, has not really figured into the plans in the second half. Like in the first half, they kind of did control the zone pretty well. They're still not like the least chasing, least striking out team in the league back then, but they kind of had that working, and I don't really know quite how to like apportion a specific piece of the blame to that beyond just that everybody seemed to go to heck. And
Yeah.
I haven't really heard any like terrible clubhouse rumors.
No.
Those guys always seem to get along well. It seems like a fairly tight knit group for the most part.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the type that's going to turn on each other. They signed Chris Paddock and Charlie Morton, traded for them. I mean, and those guys are good clubhouse guys. Charlie Morton has a great reputation in that way. So you would have thought, if it was something like that, you would think that would help. But yeah, I don't know. Just nothing's working.
So here's what Ray. It was a very good question, and thank you for the email, Ray. I'll just get to the part you said. Let's see here. Moral, without question, failing to make the postseason would be demoralizing. However, I choose to look at the bigger picture in terms of future Tiger teams, which is what we do too as well.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm just not convinced that this particular group of players still buys in the notion the game is not over until the 27th out is made. As soon as they were down against Cleveland and Atlanta, their body language changed. It appeared they just did not believe that they could come back and hold off the other team. Moreover, I'm not sure if I've ever been so horrendous at bats with runners in scoring position as I ever saw the weekend. My question is simple, which I hope you can address on the podcast. Are these truly the right players to move forward with in terms of fighting until the end and putting up major league at-bats that typically don't end in strikeouts? Definitely could be wrong, but Riley Green is the Tigers' best hitter moving next year. Will struggle again. Then they will struggle again. He's a good player as Carpenter, Torque, Dingler, maybe Keefe. But on really good teams, they're solid players that lengthen the lineup, not centerpieces. So, and then he mentioned, in a perfect world, McGonigal, Clark, and Moustakas should help, but as you know so well, this is not a guarantee. Sometimes something deeper than stats is wrong with this collection of players that's causing them to play defeated baseball. And look, I think he brings up a lot of good points, but ultimately, Ray, I think here's the thing. Looking at this, I did an article for Patreon. 14 players of the 25-man roster, or the active 26-man roster right now, are guys the Tigers have developed eternally and drafted. That is the highest mark they've had in almost 20 years, something to that effect. I'm not 100% sure about the years, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So I think what has happened is, as far as like them struggling down the stretch and everything, like we were saying, blood, water, I think there is a collection of guys that is a good core. I think Green's part of the future. I think Keefe's part of the future. And I just think what they need to do is they need to spend some money on like a veteran, like a veteran bat. Like Torres was a good idea because Torres was that veteran bat, but they need another one that gives them the younger guys some little bit of knowledge. And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but they do. They need another guy that drives contact, and that sets up everybody else.
I may have mentioned that in regard to Alex Bregman.
Yes, if only there were.
If only there had been a guy. It was perfect for them.
Been a guy at a key position of defensive need who controls the strike zone and is a leader.
If we look at this position group, the left side of the infield is almost the entirety of the problem.
Now, but to the Stan, to his point, I think just because of the nature of how everything has gone down, like Carpenter hit a hugely clutch home run.
Yeah,
2 outs in the ninth, tie the game, dead center, like it was awesome. But then Will Vest gave up 62 consecutive extra base hits, and we don't think about it anymore. That was a season-saving home run if they had won.
Yeah,
Torkelson did the same thing on Saturday night. 2-run homer. McKinstry had tied it. Torkelson hit this 2-run homer. Super excited. It felt like, hey, they're going to finally break this. Bullpen blows it again, and we don't think about it. So it's like part of it is the narrative gets changed based on the outcome rather than what we actually see.
It's not like they just quit. Like we've seen guys grinding. We've seen some big moments that could have turned, the tide of games, but everybody else has to follow through, and they just haven't been able to get that. I mean, is Will Vest just out of gas because they rode him hard, last year late and then all this year? I don't know. But this is the same team that was, out to like 25 games over 500 in early June or early July. So, they clearly like came into this season trying to build on what they did last year. Maybe they were super aggressive all off season and worked themselves to the bone and guys are worn out. I don't know how you, how you manage the load that way. But, this is the same team that was killing it. And now it's the same team that is absolutely just staggered right now. So I don't know. There's going to be a lot of questions. I mean, they certainly are going to have to rethink some things, but I don't think just throwing out the roster is is going to be any part of it. I mean, you have to consider some things like, should we trade Carpenter because he's getting older and he's injured a lot, or should they trade Keith or Torkelson for an arm and try to cover that some other way? I mean, we're going to get into all that post-mortem stuff if it comes to that, but I don't know. Right now they just, they've got a day right now to like get their head right and figure it out for themselves, and just do the best they can to put one foot in front of the other, the next 3 days, because that's what it comes down to. They have to win 2 out of 3 from Cleveland, and arguably they probably need to sweep them. I'm not going to feel real good about their chances unless they sweep them, but just take it one game at a time. We can talk about everything. They've got to look, and be focused like right there in front of them, shot to shot, pitch to pitch.
They're very vulnerable, and just like your personal data. I mean, at a time where surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable, Delete Me makes it easy and quick to save and remove your personal data online. You like that segue? Yeah.
Professional adsman right here.
Data brokers make profit off your data. Your data is your data can basically be used at any given time. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This leads to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy. With Delete Me, what do data breakers do? They get your name, your contacts, your social security number, home address, even information about your family members. New York Times Wirecutter has named Delete Me the top pick for data removal services. As someone who is actively online, privacy is really important to me. During this job search is everything. So you've been a victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing. If you haven't, you probably know somebody who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data in your private life and keep your life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now, a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting HIT to 64,000. That the only way to get 20% off is to text HIT to 6400. That's HIT to 64000. Message and data rates apply. So, no, and here's the thing too. Like, I don't think the roster needs definitely some changes. I mean, Bregman, you're right. Bregman would have answered the third baseman issues, and it's this ongoing joke that every decade the Tigers do need a third baseman, and it's true. Like, this goes back to the 1980s. I mean, when they traded Howard Johnson, they didn't have a third baseman the rest of the decade. You traded Travis Fryman. Huzzah! Or finally get Travis Fryman. Huzzah! Then you trade him to Cleveland, and then you go through the Joe Reyna experience. Then you have the Brandon Angera, which was kind of like with controversy because when Miguel Cabrera got traded over, he was pissed because he had to go back to catching. Then Nick Castellanos, and then that was a little thing. And then you had Junior, you have Candelario era, and like there's all these weird third base. There's not like a set plan at third base. For whatever reason, the Tigers just cannot execute this right for the last 40 damn years.
We've never just had like that traditional like plug and play mashing third baseman who plays good defense, And I mean, we haven't really had a shortstop either. To be honest, I mean, we had Peralta for like a couple of good years, and that was about it. So yeah, the left side of the infield just been a problem ever since Mr. Trammell left, pretty much.
And he's the guy who's in. I mean, I'm sure it's him going around camp with his towel and everything, going, "Well, wait, really? I'm the me?
Yep.
Like, I'm the last short leg." It is weird. It is very weird to see. But it's not so weird as like something that I've been seeing on the minor leagues on the clips lately. We've been noticing is that essentially people are with the West Michigan and Lakeland winning. And congratulations to them. There's a lot of people going, "I don't care about the minors. He cares more about the minors than he does to the major league team." Well, you could say that because there's some older prospects to be said, but the Tigers are winning regardless of, like, for example, Lakeland won with a bunch of guys that really, like, in some cases were a little old. Some of the, like, as Chris pointed out to me earlier, there's some guys older in Erie than are older than Riley Green. So seven
hitters.
Seven hitters.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, are they stacking the deck a little bit? Maybe to a certain extent, but there's also at the same time, there's also some legitimate prospects among the group here. It's not like just
right. That's what matters. I mean, Baseball America didn't give them such a high grade for the farm system because the Lakeland Flying Tigers and the West Michigan Whitecaps won their respective championships.
Correct.
Like it matters very much to those guys. It matters very much to the specific fan bases of those teams, and it matters to us because we follow these guys, and you like to see them have success. You like to see them learn how to win. But yeah, I mean, what matters is the real prospects ultimately. And, I'm happy for Jay Colton, and Chris Myers might win, a Florida State League championship and an Eastern League championship all in the same week here. But yeah, I mean, the guys who matter at Erie are the guys who got it done, yesterday. It was, Kevin McGonigal and John Peck beat the living crap out of Binghamton pitching. It wasn't, it wasn't a bunch of older guys, getting that done. Kenny Serwa hasn't necessarily, but, I don't know. You can split hairs on that all the way you want to, but Kelvis Salcedo was a big part of Lakeland getting there, and Gabriel Reyes is an older prospect for that level for sure. I mean, you can pick all that apart. Joe Miller's kind of old for West Michigan, but every team kind of has some of that dynamic, and I don't think that at many levels it was those guys who anyone was really leaning on.
Correct.
It was for the most part, yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a part of it that's like they're a core of the team, but they're not all the team. And like, yeah, you mentioned the young bats, but it was Peck 2 home runs yesterday off a guy who every time I was listening to the Rumble Ponies broadcast, they're like, oh, this guy hasn't been scored on in X amount of weeks. Binghamton won 90 games this year, and there was no slouch. And Erie went in there and kicked him in the mouth pretty hard. And they come back with home field advantage starting tomorrow. And so Gary Burhand will take them out. But it's also, I look at what West Michigan did and Tony Capicelli did with a lot of those guys after McGonigal and Clark left. I mean, you're talking Graham's fully healthy. I know you're still a Graham guy. Graham and Peck, Peck left, and they just had Pacheco and who won MVP honors to him. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of different variables that worked out for these teams, and where the skill set is, like we mentioned about Baseball America. The international side of things is getting better. So there's things to hang their head about, but at the same time, I think people are so like, well, what does it matter now? Well, 14 guys on a team of 26 does matter, because you're seeing what the Tigers are able to do with. I think people forget that. To me, it's important because that's how you build a team. Now, are they building it towards Cleveland where they're not going to spend it all and just maintain? Probably. I don't know. I'd like to think not. Maybe they'll spend it every once in a while because they're a bigger market than Cleveland is. But at the same time, I just find it funny that people tend to forget this team lost 93 games 2 years ago. And I keep saying that because it's...
Yeah. And you can, the problem is that, people want to blame Harris and they want to blame Illich and they want to be mad at them for, spending reasons, because Illich, as a businessman is, not well liked by many people for a whole variety. All those things are fine, but they're separate from the actual issue, which is that the Tigers do have some of the best prospects in baseball coming as soon as next year. They've got more behind that. This isn't the end. This isn't, I've bitched about, the Scooble window and Harris not pushing more in, all off season. And I probably will be doing the exact same thing because it frustrates me greatly. But, this is the end of things. And if you want to go back to the Tigers and think about this roster and the guys who are 25 and under, or can include Dingler because he just broke out this year. They've never done this before. They don't know how to do this. They've never been in this situation. And it may just be that, this is the learning experience. You don't just get born knowing how to dig yourself out of a hole like this under tons of pressure with all of us screaming at you, with everyone tearing the whole place apart because we're frustrated. That's something you can only learn to do in the moment, in the process of doing it. And maybe they'll do it. I don't know. Maybe they turn things around. Maybe, someone has a come to Jesus meeting and, they get their act together. But, I understand. I mean, the trajectory of a team, everyone always assumes however things are going right now, it's going to keep going like that. And it never does. So I don't know. Maybe the Tigers won't figure it out till next season. But, for now, we'll still hope that they can pull it together and somehow sneak into the playoffs. And then, hey, screw it. Take your chances. I won't say that the playoffs are a crapshoot. I tend to think like every year there's like 3 or 4 like 90 win, like legit 90 win teams that could really win. But it is a crapshoot between those teams. So you just never know. Take your shot. At least it's good experience, and we all get to watch some playoff baseball.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think they're a little bit ahead of the curve right now. Chris, do you want to add anything else before we?
Sorry, I've just been filling out these little last sheets, but no, it sucks. Everything's just everything.
That's what it comes down to.
It's fun for us to be able to cover such a successful minor league season, but it does feel like we're, the Tigers have just lost another excruciating game, and I'm tweeting out like a Trey Cruz single.
Right. People are like, we don't care. We don't want to hear about that.
They're either like we don't care, or why isn't he in Detroit? And it's like, All right, I get it.
Kevin McGonagall should be here right now. How would it hurt him? And I'm not trying to make fun of people that say that, but at the same time, have you guys seen him play short? We play like unbiasedly. Chris put together all his putouts in the postseason, and some weren't pretty. I mean, I looked at seeing Connor Griffin and Kevin McGonagall. Like
Side by side comparison.
it was like night and day. Like Connor Griffin is a legit dude. Like that guy. I had a chance to talk to Jeff Pontis from Baseball America. It was the first time I actually met him in person Saturday. Really, a conversation. We shut down Primary Brothers in Erie, and we were talking the entire night about baseball. It was one of those things where Connor Griffin can, like, just in terms of adjusting to his hitting, but his fielding range, he looks like a guy that can play wide receiver right now. Yeah. And just seeing the difference between the two, you understand why Baseball America made him the number one minor league prospect of the year. It makes perfect sense. The guy has tremendous upside, and he is going to find himself on a big league roster sooner or later. But not to say McGonagall is not going to. But that being said, there is a fundamental thing right now with the Tigers where at short, if the Pirates are outdoing you in shortstop development, that's a problem. Like McGonagall may end up being a second baseman long term. I really believe that, but they're going to see what they have with him in the Arizona Fall League. And so, people, why don't you bring him up now? What if he goes up there 0 for 5, he gets booed, and then people are like, oh, well, he sucks. The Tiger system blows. And there's people on Facebook arguing with me about the Tigers. Like, Tigers are bragging about these minor leaguers and that, I've heard this song dance before, and it's like, and he mentioned some of the names. They're mentioning like names like Dalal Lugo. It's like, whoa. Back up the phone here. Yeah. None of us, nobody, not one single person was getting excited about Daniel Lugo coming up or Sergio Alcantara. We all knew they sucked. So if the organization was bringing them up, okay, great. But guess what? Anybody with a critical eye knew that was full of crap. So they're trying to sell us on this. It's like, if you bought into that, that's your problem. That's not my problem.
Right, because, if you've heard the story before, then what you heard was that Riley Green was probably going to be a good major league hitter. Spencer Torkelson would be a solid first baseman, who hits. Dylan Dingler would be a good catcher. Parker Meadows is, an elite center fielder, and we don't know how much he's going to hit. That's the kind of thing you heard. I understand from their perspective, there's no, like, slam dunk, Bryce Harper type, like, super prospect necessarily coming. Like, Kevin McGonagall is pretty close to that as a hitter, but he's not going to fulfill all of our dreams at shortstop. That's for sure. But, this is the way it's done. And no one's trying to sell you a bill of goods. We're still going to, be badgering the front office to do more this offseason. But, in truth, this is the only way this is ever going to work for the Tigers. They are never going to go sign, 2 or 3 $180, $250 million contracts at a time. So if you don't think there's any chance of them winning that way, you might as well tune out now, because they're just not going to do that. I can yell at Chris Ilitch, call him horse. He don't care. He's a billionaire.
And people forget, Brandon, when he first bought this team, he spent a little bit. Then he did not go back to spending it all. During the Randy Smith era, that's why he made so many trades, is because the Tigers weren't spending.
The Mike Ilitch spending era was a pretty short burst. And people also forget that from 2007 to 2010, everything sucked. They didn't fire Dombrowski. They didn't fire Leland. They stuck with it and tried to make their plan work. And eventually, it didn't work either. But if your goal is a World Series, of course. But that's, you can't change course this fast, especially when, from what we've seen, they've drafted really well. We'll see about the last draft. That's certainly been controversial, but, to a certain degree, Max Clark was controversial. How does that look now? You've got to trust them that they know what they're doing on that score. It's not that I think Scott Harris doesn't know what he's doing. I just think that he doesn't do enough and sometimes overestimates his ability to outthink everyone, and I think there's some evidence for that this year, where sometimes you just have to, do the simple thing and just go get a good player, straightforward, simple, old school baseball. Just go get a good player. You don't have to be smarter than everybody. You don't have to find the best dollars per WAR value at every position. Just build the team to win, Anyway.
Yeah. So what were we going to say, Chris?
Oh, nothing.
No, okay.
Just, doing the it was a relatively short week in terms of in terms of games and in terms of player movement.
Yeah.
Although, the movement that we saw was pretty substantial at the Tigers level.
Yeah.
So as far as Toledo goes, so Toledo finished the season at 84-66. So they surprised a lot of people based off the way they started, and congratulations to them on finishing the season on such a high note. Gabe Alvarez definitely deserves a medal for or something along those lines. We are doing awards. We're going to do the awards. We're going to be doing like a live show, live stream Sunday, October 6th. I think we were the reason why we wanted to wait so long is because just in case with the Tigers in the postseason and all that, it's a night that we could probably do it. And so, but a
It's
lot
also
of
the night the Arizona Fall League begins, so it kind of makes sense from that
yeah,
regard too.
that as well. Yeah, and but a lot of these players you're going to see say bye bye to, like Andrew Navigado. It's just going to be again. I don't know what the Tigers are going to do with Pettit or Lockhart. I mean, a lot of these guys you got familiar with will more likely not be back next year. So,
Yeah, a
especially
lot
now,
of decisions.
a lot of decisions to be made. Valencia finished the season with 24 home runs and 95 RBIs. That's very very good. Again, the defense needs to be better, as we talked about this with Gabe, and so we'll see what happens with him. But he ends the season on a very good high note. Don't be surprised if he wins our Breakout Player of the Year award that we're doing. So we'll see how that plays out. But Trey Cruz, 7, he's walking more than he's striking out, taking advantage of some bad AAA pitching. Again, Trey Cruz in an interesting spot here where the Tigers have to make a decision whether to add him to the 40-man roster or not, and how that's going to work out. So we'll see how that plays out. And yeah, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Trey Cruz. I'm one of the few people maybe that's on the fence about Trey, or like Trey Cruz is going to be in the big leagues. How effective he is I don't know, but I don't know. I think Trey Cruz should have definitely got it. We'll get an opportunity somewhere. If it's not here, then somewhere else. I think he has the pedigree to be an effective player. The data's even suggesting that he's seeing the ball better. But
He might turn into someone's Zach McKinstry,
yeah, exactly. And hopefully the Tigers do not let him go away for nothing, because I would it would piss me off, because I feel like that would be one of those things where he'd come back to haunt Detroit by doing well somewhere else, and he was sitting in the minor leagues the entire time. And then everybody's gonna be like, well, could have called him up. And I think Trey Cruz is a guy that can be an effective Major League Baseball player. And I might be the only one on that island, but I don't care.
No, I mean, I think he's got a shot to be like a contributing player. I'll give him that, because he is gritty. He can play all over the place, to a competent at least degree. Yeah, I mean, there's some value to a guy like that. I mean, if we're talking about controlling the strike zone and being that kind of player, he and Mendoza are probably the two most emblematic of that in the upper minors. They just have some flaws, with their approach and with their ability to maybe hit like the top shelf stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they can fix that or not. Colin Arthur wants to know if Alvarez would be the front runner for the bench coach if Lombard got a managerial job, and I think almost certainly he would be the front runner immediately.
Yeah. He's earned it. He's done a really good job of again taking chicken, into chicken salad, into
Especially this year, like putting up. I mean, everything we just talked about with the Tigers all falls down on Gabe Alvarez, and they went 45-30 in the second half. So
yeah,
that's pretty good work.
that's very good work. The Seawolves, by the way, like I said, will be there tomorrow and possibly Wednesday, but they beat, like I said, they beat Altoona pretty soundly too. And it was funny because the Altoona broadcaster was very cocky. But I was out there he was out there and he was eating an apple, walking around the ballpark like they own the joint. He was kind of, I don't know, he was kind of a very elusive, like just very arrogant.
Are you sure it wasn't a pear? That's
Maybe it was a pear, but it sounded like it was. I think it was an apple of sorts. And then he was telling everybody, we can't celebrate too hard. He was talking to some reporter about it. I was like, oh, okay. And they went out and took care of Altoona. And there was a moment where Tamar Johnson hit a home run that was clearly foul. It hit the right side of the foul pole and went right. And he was trotting around. He was like, doing his thing, booting, like kissing the crowd, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And because of that, as a result, he got benched and did not play.
In the deciding game 3 of the Eastern League semifinals, Tamar Johnson, formerly top 5 pick from the Pirates, former top 100 prospect, was benched for his the way kind of behind the scenes stuff. So that's not a good sign.
Yeah, and he did all that, and then I mean, it was clear. It was like they hit the pole that holds up the netting, like 15 feet right of the foul pole.
Yeah.
So they eventually, I didn't know if they were going to reverse that, because you just don't know at that level. Like, did anyone see it? Yeah. But all the, Algieri was losing his mind. Like everybody on the right side of the Tigers infield was losing their mind. That was a weird moment.
Yeah, I was behind the home plate. I'm like, that was foul. How is that calling that fair? And everybody's like, well, maybe it went. Like, no. You could see it, even on the replay, I slowed it down because I recorded it because I was ahead of the time, so I put it in slow motion, and you can literally just see it like go right side.
Yeah.
Then it was just it was a horrible deal. Erie came back and then they able to win on Wednesday, and it was a situation. Or I'm sorry, Friday, and they were able to take care of business. And Tyron Lorenzo was a big hit in Binghamton the other day, but Kevin McGonigal just deciding to do things and just going and doing his thing. But the bullpen is still a concern for me because we're not going to see Jaden Ham probably the next two games. Garrett Burhan's going tomorrow. Who knows is going game 3 yet? They haven't announced that yet. But it is going to be
Gouache and Trevin Michael have been really good for him. They have some options. I also just want to give some props to Andrew Sears.
Yeah.
I was a little slow to adopt this year, but like seeing him pop, 95, 96 a lot more
97.
consistently. It looked like to me, and I mean, he went out there and looked like he took Altuna's sort of attitude personally.
No, he did. He
Went
definitely
right after him.
he went. He had. I was texting Chris throughout the game. It was like 96, 97 a couple times. He was able to use his changeup effectively. Was able to change the eye level really well. He got Connor Griffin to just get one hit, and it was one hard hit, and that was it. And he was able to limit the damage with that because Altuna's line is not that deep outside of Griffin and maybe Johnson, but I'm trying to think of the other guy that did well.
That's Marlene Valdez.
Valdez can hit fastballs, off speed or junk. Forget about it. He can't really do much with it. And Trevor Michael went in and really did. As you mentioned, Brandon, he did a really good job with with that. And so, but Andrew Graham has been again trying to push as many right buttons as possible. And there's a lot of pressure on him because right now the Seawolves trying to become the first team AA affiliate since the Montgomery Rebels did in 75 through 77 to win 3 titles in a row. And the third one is considering the roster changeover. You don't have Troy Melton. You haven't had a starting rotation healthy. And Chris and I talked about this the other day. Carlos Pena was literally on the ropes in the first inning, and then he came back and just shoved and did a really good job of keeping Altoona off balance. And so I think Binghamton's a really talented team, and this is going to be it'll be hopefully pending the weather, which is supposed to be cloudy tomorrow, 75 degrees. It'll be a good crowd because Erie does play well at home.
It won't go down easy.
Yeah, a couple things there with Sears. Love the way he pitches, the demeanor where he just is absolutely psycho and goes after guys. And a big thing, and this goes back to Stan's point. Last year Andrew Sears walked 5 per 9 in low A, and this year I'm looking right now 3.2 in high A, and 2.2 in double A. He's going up each level and throwing more strikes, and the numbers are largely the same. He had a couple rough outings in double A, but if you're going to throw and you're going to touch 97 and throw strikes and have a couple secondaries, then you can play in my organization. Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.
I kind of had him, chalked up as often happens to lefties without overpoweringly good stuff or super deep arsenals and amazing command. He's probably going to be a relief option, and maybe a pretty good one. But now he's kind of nudging me back toward all right, you should keep him starting for now, at least for sure. Maybe he goes into herder mode at some point down the stretch, but no reason to mess with it right now.
Yeah, and it was Roger was saying with Pena, that was you couldn't have had a worse start. He was 20 pitches into the game, and it was I think single, walk, double, and on second, third, nobody out, and Altoona never scored again. He got
a double play ball or something, and then
I think he got a pop out or a shallow fly out and a strikeout, and it was just
pop out, line out to Holton, and struck out the third guy up.
And then he retired 6 more in a row. I think he gave 1 more hit, and he made it 4 2/3 or something like that. And then Austin Bergner, the all-time Erie strikeout inning pitch leader, whatever, came in there and he pitched well. And it was an impressive series win there. And then as Roger mentioned, they just came out and bombed up on Binghamton, which was something that I wasn't really expecting because their team ERA was 2.9 this year.
Yeah.
And the next closest was Erie at 3.6. So,
and they were at home. Where they prevent runs, and they could not.
Yeah, and that's a tough, and that's a really not a good area to play in. A lot of the guys that go out to Binghamton only playing out there, and kind of that's what we hear about that. So the Tigers. Here's the thing about Erie, as far as getting it done tomorrow. I think that they have that veteran presence back there, even without Justice Bigby, who's been out for the entire, who won't be playing the rest of the playoffs. But Myers made a traditional sliding catch like he always does. He did that again the second postseason in a row. He made a diving catch, and so. But it'll be a packed house, and there's gonna be a lot of emotion going through because could be the final game of not only Sam Lebowitz but Greg Genghis,
Oh,
possibly.
yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, there's that aspect. You never know in the minors. And they do. They're getting one of the Mets' better pitching prospects still in the minors, Will Watson.
Yeah.
But I was looking at his stat. I haven't watched him pitch, so maybe he'll come and carve them up. But I looked at his stats, and the walks are a little high, and that is a recipe for disaster against this lineup, particularly like the top four guys.
Yeah.
Because Max Clark is just out there hunting walks like crazy and taking them and he's doing a great job of drawing them. McGonigal will not expand the zone. You can get him to strike out occasionally, but he's not going to do you favors. Briseño will strike out, but he's also going to make you throw like 10, 12 pitches. And he'll take his walks.
Yeah.
That's it's so many times this year. You start an inning with like two of those guys on base, and it's pressure right from the beginning. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen, but I could see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So West Michigan and Lakeland both took care of business. They won their respective titles, and for West Michigan, I believe that's their 7th title, and I think for Lakeland was their 5th. I want to say, top of my head.
Been over a decade for both of them, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, but they got it done, and they're now be able to come into the postseason, offseason in a very good position next year. And so West Michigan will have some talent coming back. I mean, it's we'll see what happens with their infield, but I think they're going to be in good position next year. West Michigan and Lakeland are going to stack up really well. So, but yeah, so tomorrow we'll be streaming. We'll maybe do a stream from the Turnpike. We haven't done that in a long time. I like doing those. As we drive through Cleveland tomorrow, because that's what's going to happen. And then if the Tigers or hopefully the Seawolves hold it off and pull it off, and the Moon Mammoths or whomever, I don't know what jerseys they're even going with tomorrow, but
Yeah. I've got a whole marketing plan for next year to tell the Greg Coleman. It's not all that clever, but if they win again, that's 3 rings in a row. You got to have a 3-ring circus next year.
Oh yeah, with 3 mammoths, dancing mammoths.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mammoths, and you got to have some tigers, and you got to have some clowns, and
Yep.
that guy who gets shot out of a cannon, have him.
Oh yeah, that guy in West Michigan was the most disappointing shot out of the cannon thing we've ever seen in our lives. Remember that guy? It was so lame.
It was fine, but it was like 45 minutes of like build up and setting up the net and like.
Oh god.
It's like imagine watching somebody like prepare for a single dunk in a dunk contest for like 45 minutes. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
and then there he goes. He gets shot.
Yeah.
200
This is
feet.
never going to make the preparatory work worth as well.
I'd rather see like the frisbee dogs.
Yeah, or the dogs that get the bats, the bat dogs.
Those are always good.
Oh, the bad dogs are good, sure.
Bat dogs are awesome because the fact that they never seem to get it all the way over there. Cracks
Yeah,
up. It's like they're adorable. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, they lose focus somewhere along the way.
it's okay. There's somebody going, "Good boy." He's like, "What?" Or good girl, whatever the case is. But well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're watching us before the Lions game, thank you for tuning in. Lions are playing in Baltimore, I believe it is. That's what they're playing.
Yep. Should be a pretty good one. Tough game for them, but
Yeah. Baltimore is my favorite AFC team. I've always been a fan of the Ravens, the color scheme and all that, and they're just the way they've built their teams, like by defense. And when I used to play a lot of Madden back in the early 2000s, the Ravens were always my other team. Yeah, but like I said, we'll be on the road tomorrow. Check us out. There'll be some extra footage available on the Patreon. So if there's going to be a potential champagne bath, be prepared for some video on that, because Chris has never experienced this, so this will be his potentially first time. We'll see what happens, but
yeah,
it'll be awesome to see. So
break them in.
Yeah, break them in. Yeah,
Yeah, you guys gonna get rings again?
No, we didn't get them last year.
We didn't get them the year before, but I told Greg this year. I'm like, I didn't specifically ask. I was like, can it be possible to get rings? I mean, I have the replica ring, which is cool, but
that's all I mean.
it'd be cool to have. Like, I never got a high school ring because I thought the high school rings were. I knew I would lose it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be, hey, Greg, the Gregs, please. Come on, Chris and
Yeah.
I. Come on.
I just want the one ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
is that too much to ask for one ring to control the universe?
yeah. One ring to rule them all. Yeah. Why not? I just would like to.
Think of the
one
work
that's-
involved, though.
Yeah,
It says
that's true.
Castillo. Just say it's Castillo on it, and then the Sea Wolf or the Moon Man.
Yeah.
Hey, that. Hey,
Yeah,
just saying. Like, just saying. I've done.
that would be cool.
The impressions, everything. You're welcome, Fernando. That ain't gonna happen. We'll see. But anywho, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And don't forget to check out the TigersMLReport.com. Joe Rampy did a really good article on Tigers on Kevin McGonigal. There's a Patreon article up. If you'd like to click and donate to help us with everything, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then, yeah, there's some more good news on the horizon. I can't say that part yet. It involves a staff member, but I'll tell you afterwards, Brandon, because that's what we're going to do. And, yeah, it's all good.
In the meantime, just win, Tigers, for the love of God.
Yeah. Please go down to Cleveland and shut them up, because I'm
It's-
tired of Cleveland Twitter going on and talking smack. That I'm just stop. Just
It's not
please
over
stop.
yet.
It's not over yet. Just stop Cleveland. Go in there, take care of business.
It's
We're
the
driving-
playoffs already.
Yeah,
It's the playoffs already. Go win 2 playoff series.
go win. Do what you got to do. Win in 2 places that you notoriously cannot, in Boston and Cleveland.
Yep. Bury your demons, or be smothered by them, and then
Yeah.
we'll yell at you all off season and demand Alex Bregman again.
Yeah.
That
Your
4-homer
choice.
game in Boston from Riley Green is going to be epic.
Stay close, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Night, guys.